I have with me Colleen Biggs.
Welcome to the Brave Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Jena Rodriguez. Entrepreneurs are leading the way and creating a whole new level of possibility. Each week, listen in to hear how brilliant entrepreneurs share their brave secrets. Entrepreneurship is not the easy way. It is the brave way. Now let's get our brave on.
I am so excited to bring to you another amazing guest. I have with me Colleen Biggs, and she is all about leadership and helping women step into their greatness and empower women. And I am so excited to have this conversation. We have been new friends in the last month or so, and I just am so excited that we crossed paths. So please welcome Colleen and share with the audience who you are and what you're up to.
Hi, Jena. Thanks. I am honored to be on your show today. So thank you for inviting me here and giving me a spot to be able to share with you in educating, motivating, and inspiring others. In LeadUp for Women, I educate, motivate, and inspire women. So it's, that is really my bread and butter of what it is that I do. And in my LeadUp for Women community, we're like-minded women that are tapping into our power and leading our lives without asking permission of others, giving ourselves the permission to be able to lead our lives and without judgment. We don't judge others. I don't. And, that's who we are. And that's what our community stands for. And so I lead by example on lifting other women so that we can all shine our lights bright.
Yeah, I love that. And I certainly second that. And part of why we connected so quickly is that's also, a lot of what I'm about. And I think the word that I just heard that I would love to dive deeper into is the word permission. I'm curious, when in your life have you either not given yourself permission or didn't feel like you had the permission to do you?
For like 30 some years.
Yep.
To be honest. So, my story really started, and I've shared this story quite a bit. And even in the book that I just co-authored, I start with my story because the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because stories are powerful. Yeah. And when you understand somebody and their story, you really get a veil lifted to be able to see them for who they are and the person that they are, which is very important because so many of us still stand behind cloaks or masks. So, mine started honestly when I was about 12 or 13 years old. My parents got divorced. I was like 12, I think. And my dad mentioned to my mother and didn't know I was listening. And he said, she's not worth $100 a month. And so that story became my story. And I didn't even know that because it hurt me so bad, I started living my life as if I wasn't worth $100 a month. So, it hurt me in getting jobs. It hurt me in finding relationships. My dad was extremely abusive. So with him leaving was probably a blessing. However, that wasn't a blessing at the time of what he said. And so I lived with that label for a very long time. I got into other abusive relationships. I wound up getting divorced a couple of times. I had a couple children, and, I'll, move this story along. So obviously I don't bore anyone with the details for 4 hours, but if you can imagine spending your life feeling that way and then protecting yourself so that you can't ever be pierced that hard again, what happens is, and I want everyone listening to this I think they can relate to a piece of this, which is as we're hurt, we tend to build up another layer. Then we get hurt again, and then we build another layer and another layer. And what happens is we eventually lock ourselves behind what I would call a cage of protection.
Yeah.
So we're really not showing up in our everyday lives for ourselves. We're not showing up for our families. We're not showing up for our jobs, our careers. We're not showing up for our clients.
Right.
And I want, I'm saying that out loud because if you feel that you've spent some time locked behind some layers of some baggage, let's say, that you still carry around with you because you still have truths and beliefs of labels or what someone's attached to you, I like to use this phrase that we were taught as children, which is, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks back on you.
Yeah.
And it's really true. Think about why our parents taught us that. They taught us that because they wanted us to have a phrase that we could visually protect ourselves with and share with the other person, like, it doesn't matter what you think about me. I'm
Right.
not going to let you apply that label to me. But then somehow, like teenage years, maybe we forgot that that existed. And
Yeah.
so we've allowed society and culture to mold us and to tell us who we need to be, how we need to be, how we need to show up, what we think other people are looking for in us. And it's just all bull crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Amen.
bull crap. I mean, I was going to say BS, but it's BS. You know
It's
what I
all
mean?
that.
Yeah, it's all that. And I say that because any opinion or label that somebody else has of you, and you know this, Jena, it's none of your freaking business because it's all their own insecurities that are a reflection of what their shortcomings are on you. And
Yeah.
so when you step back and you think about that, it gives you a power, like you can light a lamp and it gives you a power to believe, I've always been this person. This person has always existed. I've just allowed everything else that's happened around me to tell me I am or I'm not. And starting from this point forward, there has to be a point when you decide to give yourself permission, because I'm sorry, nobody's coming.
Yeah.
No one's going to come and say,
There's not a permission fairy.
no, I love that. There's not a permission fairy that's going
Right.
to, even though we've shared with our children for years all the little fairies that there are
Right.
around, we know the true stories. And I that's a really good point that you bring up. Think of how we raise our children, for those of you that have them, or how we've had beliefs of how we were raised. There were many, many, many stories for many, many, many holidays that we believed. Why? Because our parents believed it so deeply
Yeah.
and taught us the same stories. We then turned around, if we have children, and we've taught those same stories to our children. What showed you that it wasn't true? You believed it to the core because that's what you were taught.
Right.
So I bring that up because if you believe to your core that you're amazing, if you believe to your core that you were created exactly and perfectly perfect the way God intended you to be, and that you are a creative genius in one lane that's just your lane and no one else can do it better. If
Right.
you believe in that and you lead forward with that and tap into that power, you will be unstoppable. And it changes your whole outlook. It changes your whole being. It
Yeah.
changes your truth and belief in who you are. And here's the trick about all of this. The handle's on the inside. Like
Mm-hmm.
my marriages failed because they didn't even have a chance to
Right.
get to me. I thought they did, right? I blamed them. I blamed outside circumstances. We all do the blaming. But when you step into really understanding who you are and taking the time to discover and pull back layers, you got to do the work. You got to do the work on yourself. You've got to pull the layers back. That gives you the opportunity to give yourself the permission to say, I'm showing up as me in every situation, in everything I do, and I'm not going to apologize for who I am. And it gives you this authority of yourself that is a belief, and you feel free,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Jenny, you
Yeah.
feel like
100%.
it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It doesn't matter if they don't like this Facebook post. It doesn't matter if I'm, hiring these 3 clients and someone doesn't agree with it. It doesn't matter if someone likes or dislikes or doesn't understand what I'm doing. The people that get it and the people that need it and the people that understand it or are yearning for assistance and they're in the dark and
Yeah.
suffering and they need your light and your lamp, they get it.
That's right. And they're drawn to you just like moth to a flame, right? It's like we just keep, if we show up more authentically aligned with who we are, not in the cage of pain, as you mentioned, the cage of pain, then we are the light that they're attracted to, and they'll show up and perfectly, like they're meant to show up in your space to hear whatever you've got to say. So it's not about waiting to see if it's right for them. It's be right and aligned with who you are so that they can show up for it, and vice versa. So you've said so much. I was like taking notes. One, I love the number one, what I heard inside of, and I think we want to anchor, and I'm big on this, is that the things that we adopt as the beliefs, I call them belief loops, especially those painful ones, like, I'm not worth $100 a month, is something that we have to take ownership of, not continue to be victim of that, or to be victim of whoever said it, but to take so much personal ownership that's when the permission can jump in and be, it's like it comes from you, not to you. And so I heard personal ownership. I heard allowance, right? Allowing that truth to be a part of who you are. And then I also heard the word masks, and the masks that we wear, and wrapped in the cage of the pain that we've taken on, we've said yes to. And I you and me both. I mean, I had abusive, my mother's boyfriend of 5 years. My dad, we divorced at 8, and then she chose a guy that was abusive physically to her, emotionally to me. I mean, I was called a whore. I'm like, if I took that on, at 12, I would think I was 12 years old. I'm like, where is this even coming from? He was in pain. Trust me. He was an alcoholic and he was a drug addict. And I'm like, this is not my life, but it was, and it was my life. It was a circumstance, and who I became because of that, and who I get to choose to be because of it, is the game that we get to play now, right? That's how leadership occurs, and self-leadership for that matter. So I look at your background, right? The lead up, and I'm just like, self-lead up. Like, that's what I keep hearing is, how do we become leaders if we can't even lead ourselves?
Yeah.
And break ourselves of the patterns. And you shared, you've had, I don't know how many marriages, multiple, I believe you said.
I've been married 3 times, and
3
I've been
times.
married for 11 years now.
Yeah, got it. And yet the patterns are our own, right? The patterns belong to us, not so much, because of them, and it's like, you can make them all work if you're willing to look at yourself, right? In this case of it.
Yeah. And, and I'm not embarrassed about that.
Yeah.
I think that many people are embarrassed about that, and they're like, oh no, you should only be married once, or, you have a scarlet letter because you've been divorced, or, if you've been divorced twice, oh my gosh, what's wrong with her? Who does she think she is? And, I'm not asking anyone else's permission for what my life looks like. And
Right.
the freer I am to open my closet and allow anything that I've tucked away, that I've tried to hide, the freer I can be with my life, and I can lead my path the way I want to lead my path. And I believe by giving myself permission to be able to speak those truths out loud, I also at the same breath give others the permission to step into that truth too.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important part, because I know I have to, and there are times there's still a few things that I have to like bring the light to about what am I feeling shame around? What am I ashamed of? And part of my story is my first business, crash and burn. It failed. And I had to file bankruptcy, but I didn't speak about that for 5 years. Why? Because I was still hooked to what it meant about me. And so I love how you've said, that you don't have any shame around that, but I'm hearing the audience go, well, how do I get there? And I would love your take on that. What are a few steps, or I can hear what I would say, but I would love your perspective on if you are feeling ashamed about something in your story, or in your past, or whether it's business or life, etc. What are the steps to kind of move through that and come out of the closet?
I used therapy, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I believe therapy is helpful.
Sure.
Therapy, talking with somebody, whoever that is, it could be a coach, you could hire someone who's a coach. The reason why I think therapy works so well for me is because it's a third party of somebody who's not a family member, not anyone that's really connected to
Yeah.
my feelings or my past. So it's someone who doesn't know me that can offer me the advice from an outside perspective, because when you're in your frame, things seem worse than they are, and if you're looking at the silver lining of those things and starting with therapy, it gives you the permission to really just expand everything you are to someone that doesn't know you. When you are in fear, because you're working through the process, you're still in fear of judgment.
Right.
And the next step is, once you have apologized, right? So for me, I had to do some apologies.
Mm.
And I had to go back and apologize to ex-husbands and, for things that I did wrong. And by dealing with an emotion and by facing an emotion and then letting it go, it provides space. By
Yes.
providing space, now I can fill that space with things that are productive and positive and truths for me moving forward.
Yeah.
So even in your, for instance, in your bankruptcy with a failed business, you can look at that in I could write down a page of negatives and I could write down a page of positives. But I
Right.
tend to look at the positives, like, what did you learn in everything in that business that brought you to the success that you have in this business, right?
Yeah.
Same
100%.
in marriages. What did I learn about myself that I loved and didn't love about a marriage? Or what did I learn about myself and how I show up for the other person, right? So it all comes back to us, how we show up, and understanding, again, that belief that it doesn't matter what somebody else thinks, because they have zero control over you. No one has control over your life unless you allow them to have the control.
Right.
So realizing that you are in complete control of your life and everything you do, and what other people think doesn't matter, you really are all completely unstoppable in anything that you do, everything that you do,
Yeah.
because you won't have fear.
Right.
Because we're not here to judge. There's one judgment, doesn't happen here. Neither one of us are here to judge. We're
Right.
all sent here exactly perfect with a creative genius. And our only job on this earth is to provide others to be able to tap into what makes us so awesome. That's our only job
Yeah.
being here.
Yeah.
So
I love
what
it.
you are and what you do and the things that you create does not make you enough. You're enough just being you.
And then you're the one that strips that away with
Yes,
all the belief, right?
because we identify with our success being what we produce or what we have or what we can become, not who we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the message that I can send to those that are struggling through that is, the first step is to acknowledge every single time you feel, why am I feeling that I don't want to make this post? Why am I feeling that I don't want to apply for this job? Why am I feeling that I'm afraid to ask my husband or my spouse or my partner something?
Yeah.
What is it centering around? And then understanding and acknowledging that fear is probably something about what the other person thinks, what they're going to disapprove of, how it makes you feel. Because we tend to think, when we say, like, you made me cry.
You made me feel guilty.
Did they really?
They really.
So, right. So
Yes.
we can only accept our responsibility, who we are, how we show up, how we treat other people. And when you realize that that's all that we've got to give, it just makes it a little freer and lighter in life to move forward, because
Yeah.
there's not one moment in anything I do that I'm super worried about what somebody else thinks. And that doesn't mean I'm rude or I'm selfish or I run over other people. I mean, my whole entire work and life is about serving others.
Yeah, for sure.
I can serve others knowing that I'm very secure in myself and who
Right.
I am, and it makes it easier to serve others.
Yeah, I love that. And I, just to kind of anchor what your advice was and what I heard was, um, hire the mentor or the therapist or the coach or someone outside of the attachment that you're in. It's like the emotional attachment that someone too close to you. They have their attachments, we have our attachments. So it's like having that third party, investing in yourself to be more of who you are, I think is a smart move. And then you said exactly what I was hoping you would say, which is taking that ownership and even apologizing inside of the ownership, which I call cleaning it up, right? Kind of clean it up. And just, I think apology is not about like, I did something wrong. Apology is like, wow, I could have done better. Right. And now I know that, and I'm sorry I didn't do better, and this is why, and now I'm aware. And so growth can happen in space of that type of apology.
Yeah.
And I love that. And then the third thing you said was feel the emotion, and 100%, I've got a whole detachment method surrounding emotional release so that you can, you can be free of what that cage of pain is that you talk about. And so thank you for that. And so moving kind of down the timeline for you, now you're in the business of helping people lead themselves, lead others, and lead up, as you call it. And so and of course, we're recording this in the middle of a pandemic, and we've got an interesting circumstance going on for all of us, even though we're going to experience it very differently. What has been one of, kind of the life lesson that you've learned, whether in your business or this time of life or what have you? What are you seeing about you in this current landscape?
I'm very thankful that I built the business that I built, when I did. And I didn't realize how valuable it would be in a time like this. And, I have this vision of what the world looks like when there isn't the sex trafficking and domestic violence and sexual abuse and physical abuse, and where women are making their choices very strongly and standing in their truth. And that is why I built this company, to empower women to not only lead in their own lives and stand in their truth, but then really leave that ladder down to lift others, to lead up, right?
Right.
So to just continue to be that lamp and that light, and that fierce female moving forward, that we have so much power within us. And if we don't say no to things that we mean no to, and if we don't say yes to the things that we really, really want in life, and then just figure it out, afterwards, and not shove our identities away for years when we're raising children, or or getting married. Many of us women, when we get married, we take somebody else's last name, and then we become an identity of a mother. And then so many women, I have heard them say, I don't even know what my favorite color is, I don't even know what food I like by the time my kids grow up. And that's not everyone, not all women have babies, and some of them maybe get married or not.
Right.
But I can tell you the percentage of women that don't get married and don't have children probably keep their identities very much in the forefront and forward.
Yeah.
And so I'm begging for women out there, and why we exist, and why I'm doing what I'm doing, is for them to show up for their families and show up for themselves. And the best example you can give your children, or the best example you can give other women around you, is to show up in your truth very, very strongly as you. And that's the best example, showing your children that they need to show up as them, and not only be a mom, or not only be a wife, or not only like have these other identities, but bring all the identities forward, and not shove who you are, truly who you are, in the background for something or someone else. That you can always show up, and by you showing up, you're at your strongest and you provide the best example for others to be strong. So, you know, I work from home every day, just like you do, Jena. So I miss the one thing I miss the most, and the biggest pivot this has been for me is just in-person contact. Like, I didn't realize how much I thrive on and need human connection, and the touching and the hugging,
Right.
and, you know, just being in the presence and energy of other people. I
Right.
do love human connection, and what this pause has created is a human connection within all of our homes, which is obviously so needed,
Yeah.
right? I'm ex-
100%.
I'm actually very excited about Mother Nature breathing. I'm excited about the
Mhm.
birds and the air and the pollution and global warming and the waters. Like, I'm super excited that, you know, humans are pretty toxic. And so I'm excited that this pause has helped the environment a lot. I care
Yeah.
about the environment. And so I'm actually, I know that there's a lot of deaths and a lot of sickness, but I'm very excited during this time for us to be able to connect differently with people, slow down, pause, appreciate things in life that we've taken for granted.
Yeah,
So when
exactly.
this ends and the doors open, we will have a different outlook on how we authentically connect with other people moving forward, and really truly make human connections matter and not transactional.
I love that. And I know I second that. And you said the word I was looking for, which was granted. Like, what are we taking for granted? I think is a great question. Just because it's been our familiar and our norm, and we are creating a new normal, nothing's going to go back to being the same. It's going to be different. And embracing that and being able to, you know, to understand what you're, you know, what you're really learning about yourself, and then therefore others. And I think the benefits you listed about what, you know, Mother Nature, I think is going to be really profound, and it'll be interesting to see. I live here in LA, and it's interesting how, like, clear some of the days are, you know, like we can see the mountains from far away, you know, because we have less, you know, smog and all that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting how, you know, there's always positives and silver lining if you are willing to look for it. And for those that are just going to focus on only the bad things, you'll just get more of the bad things. And I think that's the pivot we all need to make is how are we going to experience this, because we get to choose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So very, very good. Love that. Thank you so much for kind of giving us that inside view of where you came from and what has you so passionate about what you do now. And that's what attracted me to you as well, is there is a thread of leadership, but more importantly, self-leadership. Like, I love how you've really taken ownership of all the things in your life. So, and so as we wrap up, what is the best way for people to connect? Because I'd love for people to be in your circle.
Well, I'm everywhere, LeadUp for Women. So I've made it very easy for people to find me. So you
Good.
can find us on Facebook. You know, we have a LeadUp for Women community. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram,
Awesome.
LinkedIn, and online on our website. It's all leadupforwomen.com, you know, and then LeadUp for Women on
The
all of
hashtag.
the other channels. Just making it very simple.
Yes, simple. And look up Colleen Biggs on Facebook, and
Yeah.
then LeadUp for Women everywhere. So very good. We'll put all that in the show notes as well. And I know you have a book that you've written, and what I think you were going to share a way for people to get access to that as well.
Yeah, the reason why I wanted to get this out there is, again, I believe in community and collaboration, and there were 18 authors that put this book together. So this is by no means a biography of my own. I feel like what I need to write is still in my windshield, and until it's in my rearview mirror, I'm not quite ready to write it. And I know you and I have been talking a lot about that,
Yeah.
Jena.
Yep.
you know, on our experiences that we're going through right now and how important it is to be taking notes on that.
Yep.
But the reason why I did this book is because I'm super excited about the opportunity to collaborate with 18 women. It's called The Anatomy of Accomplishment, Bigger, Better, Bolder Business Results. And so how you achieve that. And these are women from stockbrokers to HR consultants to military, to franchising, you name it. They're from every walk of life, and own different businesses of different levels. And what we've done is we've collaborated in this book to give you all of our tips and tricks of how you can, you know, galvanize a nationwide initiative, how you can get out there and create the business of your dreams, or take the business that you have today, take the tips that are in the book. It's like a playbook. I like to say it's a business playbook for women or men. We just happen to have gotten a bunch of women together.
Yeah.
So this is the brains of 18 women put together in one book. And of course, on my website, I always give away my chapter for free. And so we'll put that information in the download for everyone. And then of course, if you're interested in getting the entire book so you can tap into the brains of the 17 other authors, you have the opportunity to purchase it right there on my website, or you can go to Amazon and there's a link on my website that will take you directly to Amazon, and then you can download the digital version if that's something you would prefer to do.
Right. Okay, perfect. That sounds amazing. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and giving people another way to connect with you for sure, and connect with others for that matter. So, okay, final question as we close out here. I always like to ask, if this was your last interview, if this was your last speaking gig, like you are never to be seen again, what would be your message to the world?
Crap, you're gonna make me cry.
I got it. It is that heavy.
I never think about having a last time.
Yeah.
My wish for the world is that every female would see who she truly was when she looked in the mirror, that she would see who she was exactly how God made her and God sees her, and she would see the power and the light that she possesses and would believe in it immediately.
Yeah.
That would be my wish for every woman around the world.
I love it. Yes. And I know, and that's exactly what I wanted to hit, was the nerve and the emotions, because it is to imagine if this was all we had right now in this moment, what we want people to hear. That was perfect. So beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for sharing your heart today. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, Jena. It's been such an amazing pleasure to be part of what you're doing, and I support everything about being brave and how we can show up as ourselves, and our messages are so aligned. So Thank you for bringing me to your community today to share a little piece of what I bring to the world as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important what you bring. So I'm definitely honored, and look forward to many more opportunities to play together. So Thank you so much. And we will see everyone on the next episode. Until then, let's go get our brave on. Talk to you soon.